Hello, welcome to the West Side Podcast. This is where we'll post some of our audio from our sermons on Sunday, and we're so glad that you're here. Westside's vision is to reconcile people to God through the grace of Jesus step by step. We hope you enjoy, and thanks for tuning in.
Happy December, second week of Advent here. We are taking 4 weeks to look at the idea of peace. And Gianna did a wonderful job for us last week in outlining what does peace look like and what is it that we're supposed to do to enact peace in our worlds. Is a very helpful message on the nature of peace. Just real quick here before we dive into the message today, I just want to make sure we're all on same page here. So we are right here in the season of Advent. Do we have that? Yeah, awesome. Can we go one more? Boom. There we go. Beautiful. We're here in the season of Advent, which is the beginning of the church calendar, beginning of the church year. You and I are coming up here to December, which feels like the end of the year because, it is for us. But the church calendar begins with Advent, and that little word right next to it, squished in, is that of anticipation. That is the season that we start with. It is a counter-cultural way of dealing with your December. And while it's good to end a year well and to pull together the threads of a crazy last 12 months, we are also thinking about newness. We are thinking about anticipation, and we're not getting ahead of ourselves in any of those things because the operative word for Advent is waiting. The more I read the story of Scripture, I just finished up teaching through the book of Genesis with an undergrad class this semester. The more I read the story of Scripture, the more I see faith being worked out in the factory of patience and waiting. It is very little about the actual arriving. It is so much about what happens to us and the way that we are formed and the way that we are coming to know the heart and the person of God more intimately over the course of the waiting, the not yet having, the knowing that which is true, but the waiting for it to be true. And so that is Advent for us. There's 4 key characteristics that are associated with Advent: joy, hope, peace, and love. Not exactly in that order, but that's the order that we have taken them. And instead of doing 1 week on each of those virtues, for the last couple of years, we've done one virtue at a time. 2 years ago, my first Advent here, we took 4 weeks and we looked at joy, which is not at all the first virtue when it comes to Advent. But I was like, my first time here, I want this to be a happy time. Let's do a happy Advent. Let's do a happy Advent. So we took joy, and then last year we took on hope. 4 weeks of hope, which is waiting and it's hoping and it's longing and all of those things. And I don't think it's an accident that we wound up with peace for this year. A number of you, after the message last week, mentioned to me, to Gianna, man, I need this right now. I need a reminder of peace. I need an encouragement towards peace. And so we get 4 weeks on it this time around. Gianna did a wonderful job outlining what peace is this week. And this week we are going to be looking at how exactly do we work this into our lives? How do we become people of peace? Because if we're being honest, it seems like almost a joke, right? It seems a little far-fetched to be a person of peace in a world such as ours. So I want to start here. Can I ask you a few annoying questions? Yeah? I mean, here we go. It's going to happen, so you might as well say yes. I'm going to ask you a couple of annoying questions. I'm going to start here. How would you compare your feelings today about the world to those that you had 5 years ago? How are you feeling about the world today compared to how you felt 5 years ago? How are you feeling about the world compared to how you felt 10 years ago, 15 years ago? In your perspective, are things getting better? Are things getting worse? Are they roughly the same? Would you say you have more anxiety than you had 5-10 years ago? Less anxiety than you had 5-10 years ago? Roughly the same? My sense in general is that we're feeling the weight of things out there in an acute way. And that most of us, not all necessarily, but culture at large feels heavier than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Are you with me there? Maybe a little bit? I see some heads nodding. Maybe I'm just making this up. Maybe it's just me. Yeah. There's a sense of things being heavier than they once were. Okay. Let me add another layer of annoying question to that reality. It's not getting better yet. Did you know that the entire business model of major media companies, think social media, think major news outlets, that entire business model is bent on you and me having an increasingly negative view of the world? Did you know this? Yeah. I feel like a lot of us live under a rock on this one. Here's what I mean. These companies don't actually care what you think about the world. You may be aware of a bias in one direction or another. There are certain platforms, agencies that lean one way or the other politically, but that is not their primary goal. Is not to get you to think a particular way. The goal of these companies, the goals of these agencies, is just to keep your eyeballs, to keep your attention. And whatever they can do to keep your attention for a little bit longer, and a little bit longer, and a little bit longer, and a little bit longer, that they will do. And do you know how you do that to a human? You feed them something negative. You feed them something that will spark outrage or frustration or concern. I don't know if you've noticed this the last few weeks. I'm noticing companies posting these things like "we're sorry" messages, like apology messages, and they aren't apologies whatsoever. They're just like funny ways of talking about how great their product is. Like, "We're so sorry that this product is super effective for you and that it's going super well and that you love it so much. We're so sorry." And it's like, you wouldn't have stopped scrolling if it didn't say "we're sorry." It's a negativity. It's called negativity bias, actually. And Sean Parker's famous line back from his 2014 speech was, it's exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. Like the fact that we will give our attention to what is negative far more easily than we will to the positive. Johann Hari, in his wonderful little book, unnerving little book called Stolen Focus, says this: on average, we will stare at something negative and outrageous for a lot longer than we will stare at something positive and calm. Now, it's not a pure tidal wave of terrible stuff that's coming at you. Every once in a while you get a fluffy little dog and a cute little cat video to keep you engaged, to keep you not feeling all together terrible. But on the whole, a negative message will keep your eyeballs longer than a positive message will. Do you know that you live in this world? Do you know that it's quite possible that the heaviness that you and I feel towards the world is not actually in keeping with reality, but is rather in keeping with our digital environment that is bent on keeping us looking at the world in a negative way? I am not saying things are not bad. There is great injustice in the world today. There are deep pains in the world today. And you and I ought to be on the front lines of caring about, addressing those things. Absolutely. But we're going to look today at the fact that our ability to be a force of peace in the midst of a negative messaging world, we actually have a say. We have a say in the way that we view the world. As if this all wasn't enough, did anybody happen to see this week the 2025 Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year? Anybody happen to see it? So I don't mean the dictionary.com Word of the Year, which was 6'7" and wildly disappointing. That was... Oh my gosh. Did anybody go through the Advent packet this week and cringe when they saw Isaiah 9, 6 through 7 was the passage that, yeah, I know. It's a tough time to be a person and a parent and a teacher and a lot of things. That's the dictionary.com Word of the Year. The Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year was rage bait. Rage bait. You want a better word to encapsulate everything I just said? The world in which we live today. Rage bait is this. It's online content deliberately designed to elicit anger or outrage by frustrating, provocative, or offensive, typically posted in order to increase traffic or engagement with a particular web page or social media account. There is an entire category of stuff out there that is bent on getting your attention by being negative, by evoking outrage. You may think, well, I have a highly developed sense of the world and what's going on, and that's why I'm so angry all the time. That is not true. I hate to break it to you. You are angry because you keep looking at your screens. There are things that ought to make us angry. There are things that ought to make us angry, absolutely. Aren't you glad you came to church this morning? Man, what a upper this is. The reality is, in this climate, the thought of living with a sense of peace can feel more like a joke than a reality. Let's just be real. This is why it feels so important to talk about peace right now. It can feel pretty far-fetched, pretty nonsensical. All right, Mr. Preacher Boy, let's talk about this peace stuff. Let's see what you have to say now. Here's the reality, though. The Prince of Peace came to be. The Prince of Peace. Okay? Christ, who is himself our peace. Okay? There's a whole lot of commands about being people of peace. Let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. Do you hear the language of the Prince of Peace right in the middle of Paul's command to let the peace of Christ rule in your heart? There is one who can rule through peace. Not through force, not through taking up arms, but through peace. That's the Jesus that we worship. And he wants to rule in your heart. He wants you to be a less anxious person. He wants you to be a less agitated person. He wants you to be a more focused person. All of those things are tantamount to being a more peaceful person. Wouldn't it be nice if there was another way? Well, surely there is. We're going to look at a passage from Philippians 4 that has everything to do with a people who desperately need a sense of peace in the midst of their disruption. This is written, let's not forget, by Paul in prison. If ever there was someone to be not experiencing peace, it would be Paul writing these letters. And yet, here's what he has to say. Philippians 4:4-9. Let's read it. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice. And the God of peace will be with you. Did you hear it? Did you hear it? We can go forward one slide. Same verses, but look at it. The peace of God can be yours. The peace of God that transcends all understanding can be yours. Why? Because the God of peace is near. You can have the peace of God because you have the God of peace. And so, great sermon. All right, let's pack up and let's go on. You have the God of peace? No, there's stuff to do. There's stuff to do. This is a cooperative endeavor. We know the God of peace, and we are making it our aim to know this God more and more all the time. But there are things, there are commands all throughout this passage to get at peace. So a quick review. First of all, what is peace? If we're trying to get at it, what is it in the first place? First of all, if you want to know what peace is, go listen to Gianna's sermon from last week. It's excellent. It's absolutely incredible, just outlining what exactly peace is. One of the things that she noted was this: peace is not an absence of conflict. Okay? It's not an absence of conflict, but rather it's actively creating and cultivating harmony. And that's good news for you and me because we live in a context of conflict. Interpersonally, even within our own selves, certainly in society at large, lots of conflict out there. Peace doesn't wait for all of that stuff to figure itself out in order for it to be real and true. Peace is actively moving towards harmony in the midst of conflict, not just passively waiting for it to go away. Peace is welfare. It is well-being. It is things being right. It is a whole life goodness is the gloss that I use for it in the Old Testament when I'm teaching shalom. But this definition, it captures both the sense of the Greek word eirene and the Hebrew word shalom. Like there's not 100% like semantic overlap between those two words, but largely they are getting at the same general idea. Welfare, well-being, things set right. A sense of that's how it's supposed to be. That's what peace is. That's what peace is. What Paul is saying here is that sense is something that can guide your mind. Your mind can approach the world as if things are right, as if things are set well, even in the midst of great tragedy, even in the midst of great pain. And there's only one supernatural one who can affect such a thing in our lives. Peace is not a passive state that we experience, but a trait that we are called to intentionally pursue and live from. I want you to feel encouraged as we go through these couple of things here, church, but I also want you to feel a sense of responsibility, a healthy weight, a healthy burden to be those who carry peace into the world. If not you and me, then who? Where else is it going to show up in your world, church? You are the vessel of peace that God intends for your world. Know the God who makes that peace possible. Know him and go live accordingly. I want to take a moment to look at the commands in these verses 4 through 9 of Philippians chapter 4. These are all-encompassing. An all-encompassing intentionality is what we're being called to here. This is both an inward reality and an outward reality. This is not some little fuzzy sense of like, oh, I feel good and can be happy and go about my life. For too long, we've talked about salvation as if it's my little gift that I can have for myself so that I can go be with Jesus someday. There are slivers of that story in Scripture, sure. But the reality is, God wants to work salvation into your life. He wants grace to be so deeply embedded in your soul. He wants peace to take root in your heart so that, not just so that you can be right with Him. Yes, that is true and good and beautiful. But so that you can then be peace in your world. How is God's peace going to get into the world? The answer is you. As it works its way into you, as God works His peace into you. Think about how all-encompassing these commands are. First of all, you have emotions. Celebrate, Paul says. Rejoice is how it's translated for us. But really, celebrate. From a man in chains, he's saying this. This is somebody who's gripped by a sense of peace that you and I would do well to tap into. Celebrate in the Lord always. I will say it again, celebrate, rejoice. It's an emotional state. Don't be anxious about anything. Your anxiety has something to do with this. So he's saying your emotional state ought to be on board as you're thinking about peace and you're trying to move towards peace. Also, your thoughts ought to be on board. This is so much about peace is that which transcends understanding, and when it takes root, it guards your heart, emotions, and it guards your mind, your thoughts. And then he gives this long, long list that we'll look at here in just a second. And then he says, think about such things. Use your brain. Your heart has to be engaged. Your emotions are a part of this. But also use your brain. Think about this thing rather than that thing. Think about the good rather than the bad. Fixate on what you know to be most true, not that which is trying to make you angry and bring you down. Your emotions are involved. Your thoughts are involved. And then this is not just an internal thing, church. It's an action. It's something that we're called to pray about by prayer and petition. Let your requests present your requests to God through thanksgiving. We looked at this in this very passage just 2 weeks ago at Thanksgiving. Gratitude is a great way to unlock peace in your life. Pray in that direction, but then notice that Paul doesn't leave it to just prayers and thoughts. He doesn't leave it to just thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers involved, important. Don't sweep them under the rug, but don't ever stop there. The way he ends this passage is critical. Whatever you have learned and received and heard from me, what you've seen in my own life, go put that into practice. Don't just let it make you feel a certain way. However important that is. And don't let it just end in your mind. Don't let it end up here between your ears. That's not the final stage. Put it into practice. What Paul has cleverly done here is he's activated every part of the person. Our heart, our head, and our bodies. And so maybe you're a more like in your feelings type person. This passage meets you where you're at, but it also calls you to think in a certain way and to do a certain thing. Maybe you're like me and you're always in your head and you're thinking about stuff. And that's good. This passage has a lot to say. It ought to be encouraging to us. Think in a particular way. But also don't forget to engage your heart, and don't you dare forget to get your body engaged. Maybe you're tired of talking about what to do and you just want to go do it. You're a body first type of Christian. That's great. This passage is for you as well. Don't you dare forget that your heart and your emotions are a place that God wants to meet you, and that your mind can guide the direction of your body far better than just your regular old impulses can. It's all encompassing. Do you hear it? The intentionality is at every level of the human person. It's fascinating. The force of these commands helps us guard against thinking that peace is merely escapism. It's not about putting our heads in the sand. No, this is about a full-orbed engagement in the world around us. We care deeply. That's why and how we can be people of peace. I think there's one particular verse here that helps unlock how we get at this, and that's verse 8. The way to genuine peace is to think about this stuff, to set your mind on this stuff. I want to use Nijay Gupta's translation. He's a New Testament scholar. I want to use his translation of chapter 8, which he intentionally, physically lays out like this so that we don't turn this just into another list of stuff to do or think about or something, but it actually sets them apart and helps us think, oh, there's actually a progression here. Furthermore, my dear brothers and sisters, he says, furthermore, truth, nobility, justice, perfection, excellence, the spectacular, whatever showcases virtue and is worthy of respect, let your mind dwell on such things. Truth, nobility, justice, perfection, excellence, spectacular. If anything is virtue-ish, anything respectable, focus on these things. And here's why I bring up the negativity bias thing at the beginning, or I talk about rage bait, our word of the year. All of those things are so interested. So many environmental factors are so interested in you thinking about the exact opposite of all of this stuff. And I want to be really clear here. We're talking about an environment that we live in, where instead of truth, we are fed lies. Where instead of nobility, we're fed images and stories of things we should not talk about. Or instead of justice, we are coming face to face with deep injustices and wrongs. Instead of perfection, we see deep flaw. Instead of excellence, we see the most trivial, banal filth and nonsense. Like, so much of it just not worth thinking about, not worth even knowing exists. That's the stuff that fills our time. The spectacular. This is the environment we live in. And so if you feel some sense of like weight, like in your heart right now, know that that is not actually something that is fully your responsibility. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I feel worse about the world today than I did 5 years ago, and that's my fault. It's really not. This is the world in which you live today. Now, to say it is not ultimately your fault is not to say, well, I'm just abdicated of all responsibility. Like, it is your responsibility. Like, you can do stuff to not be staring at screens all the time. You can do stuff to not be hearing these messages all the time, and we should be thinking about those things more and more all the time, and we will be thinking more about them. But this is the environment. What are you going to do about the environment? Some things you can change, some things you can't. What are you going to do to let beauty so fill your vision of the world that it crowds out the other stuff? Again, not in an escapist way. Would you go back and read Genesis 1 and just hear God sing the beauty of creation into existence? And just sit with that for a moment and know that everything that was good and true and beautiful in that moment is as God intends. Would you go watch a sunset if there was ever sun in the world today? Go to California and watch a sunset. Nijay Gupta in his commentary says, this is another way of turning the anxious heart and mind to open itself up to all the goodness and light that is in the world. The environment may be cruel, and it is in certain ways for sure, but there are certain spiritual practices that help us welcome peace into our lives. And I say spiritual practices, there's certain things that we can do here together and on our own, but there's also just really basic things that we can do, and I would encourage you to do this Advent. I just want to give you a handful of these to think about. Advent practices for cultivating peace. 1, linger over simple delights. If you're a peppermint mocha person, don't just, it's 2 weeks in a row it's gotten a mention up here, I understand, yeah. I am one of those people. If a seasonal beverage is something that brings you joy in this moment, spend the extra $2, enjoy it, and just sit there with it. Let the delight, let the beauty of the moment mark that part of your day. We are such thoughtless consumers. We guzzle so quickly and just move on to the next thing, like hamsters on a wheel. We're meant to go slowly, linger over simple delights. We got our tree last Sunday after service, and now each morning as a part of our morning prayer practice, we're there and we're quiet and still, and the tree is there and it's all lit up, and it's just an extra little bit of beauty in December that I don't get any other time of year. Listen to an old album that you love. Find a new one that you might be interested in. Linger over simple delights and know that in the process, you are fixing your mind on something that will help you towards a life of peace. It's not nothing. It's not trivial. It's not nothing. 2, practice gratitude. We looked at this 2 weeks ago, so I won't go into great detail yet. But gratitude will literally trick your brain into a positive mindset. If we are bent on a negativity bias, gratitude undoes that quicker than anything else. But you got to do it. You got to spend time with it. A couple things in the morning, a couple things in the evening. What is it? What is it that you're grateful for today? Take a break from social media and or the news cycle. If the environment is bent on you having a negative view of the world, say, I'm not going to participate in that part of the environment for right now. I'm not going to participate in that part. It is okay. It is not putting your head in the sand. One of the weirdest things in the world today is thinking that we are making a difference by just mindlessly scrolling over and over again. I know a little bit more now. Actually, you forgot it. Studies show that you have forgotten what you just scrolled through. So you don't know. You know less now. There's a study just yesterday that I saw. There's a study showing that short form video has really, really, really negative cognitive effects in your life. You're literally getting dumber by doing this. Take a break from it. Go on a freaking walk. Go touch grass. Go look at a tree. Look at the water. Go do something. 20 minutes of looking at a body of water will reset your nervous system. Go do that. We have a river running through our town. Just go look at it for a second. Have a lunch there instead of stuff. Replace the scrolling with something good and beautiful. Or maybe read a book that will awaken your heart. We've lost that discipline altogether as a society. Watch Lord of the Rings, obviously. Watch Lord of the Rings. Like, whatever, yeah. Do you feel a marathon coming on? I just like personally sense a Lord of the Rings marathon like nearing, like approaching in my life. That brings me joy. That brings me peace. Gosh. Begin and end your day away from a screen. I tell you what, this will change your outlook on life. If you give yourself 15, 20, 30 minutes at the beginning of the day, and the end of the day, just away from a screen, just to be present, to linger over that cup of coffee, to linger over the prayer, the time in the Word, or to just like sit and let your brain actually process the day. We've lost that too. Yeah, we've lost that too. We've lost a lot of things, but you know what? None of them are outside of our reach to regain. We can do better. We can do better. And as we do, I think we'll become the people of peace that we're called to be. But let me just pump the brakes real quick. And before you feel like you're walking away from today with another list of to-dos, oh great, Pastor gave me more stuff to do in this already busy season, do not for a moment think that these practices are some magic formula that are going to make you better in the world. They're good for you and a better idea to do them rather than other things. I'll grant that. But it's not a formula. And at the end of the day, peace is not about a practice. It's about the person and the presence of God. These practices are good because they can recenter us in the one who is our peace, the one true source of our peace. 2 little phrases in this passage. The Lord is near. We used it in our breath prayer earlier. The Lord is near. Second, the God of peace will be with you. I've always been fascinated by this passage saying, the peace of God which surpasses all understanding will be with you. Here, think about these things. And the God of peace will be with you. The peace of God is yours because the God of peace is yours, church. Do some practices. Readjust yourself in the way that you view the world. Yeah, but know that all of that is in service of knowing and loving the one triune God who loves you more than anything else. And because we are so busy this time of year, and it would be very easy for us to hear this message, to read this passage, and then to move on with our days and with our lives, and all of a sudden it's about baking and shopping, and I'm grading right now. It's finals week. I have things to grade. I have things to write. Like it's so easy to get right back into the fray, right? So we're gonna slow down right here and now together. And I'm going to guide us through a little contemplative practice. Band, if you want to come up, a little music to the background of this, that'd be nice, yeah? I'm going to guide us through a contemplative practice, exchanging our anxiety for the peace of God. Exchanging our anxiety for the peace of God. I don't do this kind of stuff very often. Usually this is more of like a Tuesday night type of thing, but I just felt led this morning that, let's do it as a big group, okay? Contemplative practice. We're just going to have our eyes closed here for a few minutes, and I'm going to guide us, through an imaginative exercise of handing our anxiety, some element of our anxiety to Jesus. So if you would, with me, just close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And with your imagination, go with me here. I want you to picture yourself in the midst of a courtyard. There's some green grass. Nothing particular stands out about this place except that it's pleasant, it's nice, and deeply, deeply ordinary. You find yourself here just sitting on a bench. Sitting on a bench in the midst of a courtyard. And as you sort of settle in and realize that you are here, all of a sudden you notice that there's someone sitting next to you on the bench, and behold, it's Jesus. Jesus right there. And you're a little bit shocked that you aren't startled. There's this person here that you didn't know was there before, but you're not startled at all because it's the most peaceful presence that you've ever experienced in your life. Just Jesus sitting there with you on the bench. And you begin to study Jesus. And you see the wounds. You see the wounds on his hands and his feet. Your throat catches for a second because you realize, like, those were for you. Those were for me. And you move to studying his face, and you see a face that is weathered. You yourself have experienced grief and loss and betrayal and pain. But all of a sudden you know that this face is one that has experienced all of those things in far greater measure than you could possibly imagine. You see it in his face. And yet, his face shines with an air of happiness that you have never known before. And then you are startled as you look into his eyes and find them looking directly back at you. And you go from being the one who was studying to being the one who is studied. Jesus looks at you. He sees your wounds. He sees your hunched shoulders. And while his wounds were for you, your wounds are for any number of reasons. Some of them self-inflicted. Some of them have come at the hands of another. Some of them you cannot give any rhyme or reason to. Again, you catch Jesus' eye, and without him saying anything at all, you experience, just in his gaze, a love that is deeper and more profound, a love that says, I know, I see you, and I love you. There is no sense of betrayal or frustration as Jesus looks at you. It's just that of love. And you wish you could sit in this moment forever. But then Jesus does something surprising. He points out the most obvious thing in the scene. It was something that you were hoping you didn't have to talk about. It's something you surely weren't going to bring up. But there in your lap is a 300-pound boulder. You'd rather not talk about it. It's not something you can move on your own. And the boulder is the weight of your anxiety. It is the weight of an acute pain in your life. And the first thing that Jesus says in this scene is a question. He asks you to name it. What's the boulder? What's the anxiety about? What is this great weight that would keep you from getting up right now? What is this burden that is heavier than you can bear? It doesn't take long for you to be able to name it to him. And then Jesus simply asks, would you like some help with that? And in a sense of relief, you say, yes, of course, but you have no idea what a help with this would look like. Over on the side of the courtyard, there is a room. And Jesus knows that this room is a place that we can help deal with such things, but there's no way that you can get the boulder to the room on your own. So he offers not to carry it for you, but to carry it with you. Jesus, strong, helps out. He stands up and picks it up, and you limp along with him. And boy, it takes a long time to get to the room because Jesus is helping. But you are still there doing the carrying as well. And you come to the door of the room and you knock, and Jesus laughs and just opens the door and walks right in. And they're standing eager to see you are the Father and the Spirit. And you marvel for a moment that God the Father, the source of all peace, and God the Son, who is himself our peace, and then God the Spirit, who is our great comforter, are all standing there with the greatest joy possible to see you. They're interested in your boulder and why you've carried it so far, so long. And Jesus asks, would you like to discard the boulder now? And you say, more than anything, yes, I'd like to. And he helps you, and the Spirit, the helper, comes along and helps you, and you roll it down a hill that is here, deep in this room. And it rolls down, and you see it crumble along and tumble along, and you've lost your focus on your boulder because you realize it falls in a field of so many other boulders, some smaller and daintier than yours, and some so much larger than you could possibly imagine. And you're struck for a moment that you're not the first one here, and you won't be the last one. And there it lies. It's not gone. It's not as though it does not exist anymore. It surely does. But it's there, and away, and down the hill. And because dads always have a treat in their pockets, God the Father reaches into his and pulls out a little ball. And it looks unremarkable at first until you get closer and you see that in this ball, from this ball, emanates all the beauty and the joy that you could possibly imagine. The beauty of every sunset you have ever seen. The joy of every smiling face you have ever known. The glorious truth of the gospel itself, all emanating from this tiny little ball. And you think, it would be nice to have me one of those. And God the Father says, would you like this? And you say, yes, of course. Yes, of course I would like that. And he says, I will give it to you on one condition. And you say, anything. He says, you have to keep the ball moving. And you're a little confused by this, and before you can make heads or tails of what he said, he drops it, and you think, oh no. Only to find that it bounces right back up and into your hands. This ball that he was holding is a bouncy ball, a playful little child's toy, and with all the joy of an 8-year-old, you find yourself thrilled to be holding this little bouncy ball full of the joy and the hope and the beauty of the world. And he says, you have to keep it moving. You must keep it moving. And as your 8-year-old self would have done, you throw it against the wall and bounce it off of the ceiling and off of the floor and And the more that it moves, the more that it emanates the beauty and the goodness and the truth of the world around you. And slowly but surely, the Father and the Spirit kind of help push you and nudge you back out of the door. You're back into the courtyard. Jesus continues to walk with you and just smiles as you play. You play the most lighthearted play that you have in decades. Keep it moving. That's all there is to it. Keep it moving. You have in this simple little trinket something good and right to fixate your attention on. Something that you have to think about how to get at it. Something that evokes positive emotion in you, and something that surely requires your body to get up and move because it bounces and you don't know which way it will go next. Eventually you have to get back to your life. You cannot be about this play all the time, and yet that is not true. The ball can keep moving because it is small enough to hold in your pocket, and as you move, it moves. And as you move, it moves. And as you move, it moves. You find yourself with a gift, an invitation to focus on, give your attention to, and your emotions to, and your body to that which is true and noble and right and pure and lovely and admirable and praiseworthy. Just take one more deep breath. As you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and come back to reality. Play in lightheartedness that God wants for you. That a life of peace can make.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we hope the sermon inspired you in one way or another. If you'd like to stay connected with us, feel free to hit the Contact Us button on our website. Let us know who you are and send us any questions or prayer requests you may have. Or visit us in person at Prairie Mountain School in Eugene, Oregon at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram to stay updated on all things Westside. We'll see you next time.